Agronomy, Steve LaRock. So we've been doing soil sampling up to now. We're almost done, and yeah, but today is the 1st of November, so I guess we're gonna see what's happening with all the chemicals and FBN Cyber November starting. So yeah, that's my story.
Great, thank you. How were the yields in your area this year, Ari?
Well, it was at Acme. It was very spotty. At Acme, they had around Acme it was bad. Then if you go a bit more Bicycle, south of Bicycle, it was good again. So Acme, they said, well, the barley was about 60, 70, some less, and then the wheat was like 30 bushels, canola 15 to 20, and then as you go east this year, it went better. Um, the previous 2 years, east was bad, and now it was reversed. So, but uh, north Pine Lake around there was average,
Okay.
70 to 80. Canola 40 to 50, 55. Barley up to 90. Uh, like not a good, but a okay year for them. And then east they had the similar bushels, but that's good for them. By Delia, and so Old College had a good yield also, 90 on barley and 55. Yeah, 70. So
Good, thank you.
So one thing you mentioned, Henri, is November 1st, there might be some guys buying. What's the temperature, the temperament of your people in terms of, do you have a feel yet as to what they're wanting to get in place or what they have in place yet? Or are you just getting at the start of that?
yeah, we're just getting at the start. I'm gonna feel them out from now on, drive around and see what they need, what they want, how they feel about buying now or later. So yeah, this is now we couldn't do anything up to now because all the pricing is going out now. So
Right. Great. Okay, well, thank you for that. And then what we're doing for those that have joined is I'll bother you now, Craig, just for the benefit of Brian and for Riley. If you could just share a bit about the geographic zone you're in, and as well kind of what's going on in field activities, or if you've had a chance to get any vibe from what, even on your own operation, what you're looking for getting things organized, or if you're in that place to do that yet with you or your customers, and what your main concerns are for maybe weed pressure, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm in I guess northeast Sask, I guess, and just north of Prince Albert. Everybody's out doing field work right now. I see smoke going all the time. Somebody's burning something somewhere all the time.
Yeah.
Whatever they may be burning, but yeah, mostly everybody's doing field work right now and busy keeping up with that, trying to get stuff done before the snow flies.
Yeah.
Weed pressure. I know for myself, I have barley foxtail, green foxtail, kochia that I'm looking to hit, mainly in wheat.
Okay.
Perfect. And then thanks for that, Craig. And so I see Greg Wells, you just hopped on. What we're doing is we're just getting you to introduce the area that you're working in for the benefit of Brian and for Riley, how the crop, what things are looking like in the field, if people are getting prepared for stuff or not, and what main agronomic concerns you might be just for getting the crop, the dirt ready for next spring and that. So if you don't mind sharing that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So Right now, well, we woke up to 4 inches of snow the other morning, so everything's kind of wet as far as field work goes right now.
Yeah, and you're in that you're west of Kindersley in that Marengo Flaxton area.
Sorry. Yeah, in that west
Okay.
Kindersley, Marengo, close to the Alberta border there. Kindersley missed out on the snow. I don't know how far north it went. But like I said, it like out towards Oyen, I had to go there the other day. We're plowing snow on the roads and stuff. So that's all. I think most of the stuff shut down. Guys are spraying Fierce or Volterra here pretty steadily the last week, getting that on for the pulse crops. We do put some Volterra out ahead of the wheat and durum in places where we have trouble with kochia. So say like a back road, your first pass, it's kind of tough to keep the kochia under control, just with all the dust and whatnot. I know north of Marengo on the 317, I had probably 2 passes in my canola that we couldn't control the kochia this year. It's a grid highway, so there's lots of traffic on it or whatever. With the canola, I guess I could have put some edge down or whatever, but so guys are getting that done. Field work wise, heavy harrowing's basically all done, and guys are we just tilled down about 60 acres of lentils. That the lentils were there, but no lentils on them, and so it was just basically a mat of Russian thistle and kochia that come in late in the rains there once the Volterra wore off. So you just rolled those down and turned them into the ground, and that's probably gonna be about it. I do see some plus temperatures. We will do some Volterra next week. But other than that, I think most guys, just the way the area is gone, I think most guys are going to pull the pin on a lot of things and wait it out and see what's moisture wise. We're dry, so wait it out and see what's going to come for the winter and spring. So a lot of guys are sitting on the fence just in regards to what they're even going to seed next year. So when you talk to them about different chemicals and whatnot, they're just not sure what they're going to use. So the glyphosate will still move, and you know I think most guys are looking to go back to wheat and durum, which is good and bad, because I think I'm looking at the same thing, just because we can't seem to pull a canola crop here or a lentil crop here much anymore. So that kind of takes a rotation away on you, but that's kind of where things are right now anyways.
Yeah, thanks very much, Greg.
Great.
And then
Thank you.
I've got one more. Is it Russell? Are you on the phone? Who called in? Is it you, Russ?
Yeah, Dean, this is me. It's really loud where I'm at, so I hope you can hear me.
You got the plant running today?
I got the plant running, yeah. I'm currently just filling a surge hopper, so I'm outside and it's loud.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, so yeah, Russell Manti, Southeast Saskatchewan. We're bone ash dry right now. I'm currently on the seed plant and trying to clean up some 55-pound durum that's not working so well, but that's another story. Guys are sitting on their hands, sitting on the fence. As Greg alluded to, we're dry. We had pretty much a less than average crop. Durum isn't moving due to the weight, small, cracked, shrunken kernels, so there's no cash flow there, and they pretty much locked the bins on the canola. It's creeping up now, but it's kind of a hand-to-mouth, just selling enough to pay the bills. So nobody's really jumping out and sticking a bunch of money out looking for some chem, as well as what Greg alluded to. Also, don't know what they're going to feed next year because nothing looks pretty. There's no pretty girl on the beach this year, so it's going to be a short and sweet selling season, I think, this fall.
Yeah. Do you have any main agronomic pressures in your zone that are a bit of a bear to manage, Russ?
I think the same as pretty much all of Saskatchewan now, and it's kochia. That's our biggest issue when you call it agronomic pressure outside of Mother Nature itself. Yeah, that's the big one.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. So that gives you, we've got a fair good coverage of zones there for you, Brian and Riley, to give you a bit of a vibe of things. And what I'll do now is I'll turn it over to Riley and Brian. Riley, some of you may know because he, as well as myself, are ex-FBN alumni. And Riley managed the southern Saskatchewan part. So Riley, I'll give you a little bit of the camera for yourself, and then Brian can take over from there, and then we can jump into the presentation.
Yeah, so my past, like Dean said, was with FBN as well. So, I'm kind of prepared for, all the chatter around cyber here. And, we are meeting as a team here a little bit later this morning to go through what our offer is going to be and, hammer some of that out a little bit. And so, part of how we run our business isn't so much as, throw everyone a price list and, hope something sticks. It's really working with you to find the solution that's going to work and say, hey, these are areas that, we're actually going to make a difference, save a farmer some money, make you guys some money, really focus on, finding actual solutions rather than just pushing a product list. And so, Henri, I know you're nice and close, so we can probably grab a beer sometime. I'm always running that way, but, I'm happy to head out and, meet up with any of you if you have any questions one-on-one or Dean, of course. But as far as support goes, run things through Dean, run things through myself, and if I can't answer, it's probably going straight to Brian. So
Thanks, Riley. And Brian, it's good to see you. Thank you for taking the time today.
You're welcome. So just a little bit of my background. I was with Dow AgroSciences / Corteva for 29 years. When they did the joint venture with DuPont, I was offered a package, which I took. And then I did some contract work with some people, Monsanto and Syngenta for a number of years. I took a couple of years off to look after my parents. And then I joined Viking a couple of years right at the very start. So I'm happy to be in the industry. Somebody asked me if you're ever going to retire, and I said, hell no, because anybody I know that's retired and did nothing kind of keeled over in 3 years. So I'm excited to be working in the industry. There's a lot of things happening, certainly on Viking, but just the amount of change that we're dealing with, it's an exciting time to be in agriculture.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And Brian, I did put your presentation on, but
Sure.
Did you want to share your screen and stuff, or what's ideal for you?
I would prefer to share my screen because we had some updates this week, which I think are great news for everybody.
That's fantastic. So if you know, do you know how to do that with the Google Sheets?
I'm going to find out.
Google Meet? Yeah, there's a little arrow there at the bottom, about 4 in from the red button that says off on your phone, and you're there. Attaboy.
Okay. So if it's okay with everyone, I will get started. I already gave you a little bit of background. Just in terms of Viking, we're new, we're small, we're growing, but as Riley said, our objective is to bring no-nonsense products to retails across Western Canada. We're not the biggest. We know
Brian,
that.
Can you throw that on presenter mode so that
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
full screen there?
So everybody can see that now? Good to go?
It's still showing small to me that it's shrunk. It's not showing in the presentation mode. I can see it, but I don't know about the rest of you guys.
Riley, can you see it?
Yeah,
I can
Oh.
see it here.
perfect. No, I was just gonna see if we could make it full screen for some of the pages with some more information on them.
Yeah, because right now I'm on full screen.
Okay,
Okay.
And
Let's
it
just
says
go
I'm
with it.
sharing.
Yeah, we can just roll with this. I mean, it should be good.
So for the sake of this morning, I'm going to stick to the pre-seed. There is opportunity to discuss post-emergent products and fungicides as we work through the season. But given the time frame, pre-seed to me makes the most sense. So as I mentioned, our objective is to bring no-nonsense products to the marketplace. So we always start with what does the customer need? What are the types of weeds that they're looking to control? Can be spring or fall. Is it going to be perennials, biennials, annuals, or both? From experience, annuals are typically easier to kill. Perennials, the best luck I've seen is targeting in the fall, either in a pre-harvest situation or post-harvest, depending on the weed. When is the best time to apply? Is it a pre-harvest? Is it a post-harvest? Some of that will depend on the weather. If you have a nice warm open fall and you've had good moisture during the growing season, post-harvest can work very, very well. What I heard on the call so far is that we've got a lot of areas that are really bone dry. So that may change the level of control you're going to get this fall, particularly as we move into November, where you're getting, most nights are going to be frost. Perennials typically sprayed early.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Sorry to bother you, but on
Yep.
my screen, unless you see different, Riley, it looks to me like you've got your screen is shared, but it's shared on not moving things forward. It's just still on your very first slide. Riley, do you see that or not?
Yeah, I still see the first slide.
So it could be that just you've got a couple different screens open and it's just we're only seeing. There you go. Now I see the understanding the pre-seed segment.
Well, that's weird. So if I go to full screen, can you still see it?
It still looks the same, but I'm guessing you must be going maybe between two windows because if you just manually go through it like you just did, that'll be fine. If you just go, because for some reason we're not seeing your full screen. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to see if there's anything I can shut down here that would help. Okay, I'm going to try it again now. Still the same?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So you're on slide 2 right now, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if it's fine with you, I'll just do this and I'll just make it a little bigger, maybe?
Yeah. Cool. There you go.
So how does that work?
That's fine.
Okay. So, as I mentioned, we're going to talk pre-seed, when to apply. I mentioned target weeds. Why do we even talk about target weeds? Because in a lot of cases, you're spraying glyphosate, which is non-selective, so you should be able to get most of your weeds. It really does depend on your weed life cycle and biology. So perennials, winter annuals, thistles, narrowleaf hawksbeard, dandelion, stinkweed is kind of a winter annual as well. They typically start growing in the spring because they're ready to go. They've got an established root. I'm kind of always astounded that even before it seems like the snow's melted, you've got dandelion and hawksbeard already coming up. For those types of weeds, control in the spring can be a bit more difficult because of timing. You get variable weather, and of course, there's a lot of other activities going on as well. So that's why typically your perennials problems spray pre-harvest, early fall, or early spring. Annuals, on the other hand, are different. Typically, they're going to start growing from seed, which means they get started a little slower, and they're going to be smaller when you apply, so they're going to be a little bit easier to control. In a pre-seed situation, ideally, if you can control prior to emergence, that's great. In most cases, we can't do that. A lot of the pre-seed products have very short or limited residual, they're contacts, so you have to wait until they're up and until you hit them. If you do have residual control products, you have to be a little bit careful. Oftentimes, the best control will be applied after seeding. Otherwise, the residual will be tossed from the seed row if you go with wide openers or if you do any sort of tillage after the fact. So some of the most common target weeds, and this would probably apply to right across the board from some of the areas where your folks are working. Dandelion is pretty much standard everywhere. Canada thistle, if you go back 20, 30 years, it was really a black soil zone. My understanding is it's spread pretty much everywhere, even in areas you wouldn't have expected it, down in the brown soil zone, swift current area. Narrowleaf hawksbeard was never much of an issue up until probably 10, 20 years ago. They believe it came in from hay, but now that's pretty much spread. Tough to kill in the spring, very tough to kill in crop. Typically, a fall application is going to be better. Cleavers, black soil zone, night flowering catchfly, same. If you look at the annuals, I heard kochia a number of times. We'll talk a bit more about that one later, but that one is almost in a category by itself because it's become so widespread, and it's also become very prone to developing resistance to just about everything, including lately group 14s, which we've really come to rely on to control that thing. It used to be group 2s. Now there's resistance. It's kochia resistant to group 2s. Then was glyphosate. There is dicamba resistance and fluroxypyr resistance showing up, and also group 14s now as well. So that's going to be a problem for a long time going forward. Now, from a Viking perspective, we have pre-seed herbicides for pretty much every acre on your customers' farms, for every crop, canola, pulses, flax, and cereals. And the number of products really depends on the category. So for example, we do have our own 540 glyphosate herbicide, which I'll talk a little bit more in detail in a second. For canola, we've got carfentrazone and Vardo. Vardo is a mix of carfentrazone and bromoxynol. I'll give you a little bit more detail later on. For flax and pulses, not including lentils, carfentrazone. On Wednesday, we just received registration for our own version of sulfentrazone and sorrel, which is similar to Authority Strike, and I'll share more details on those two as well. From a pea perspective, carfentrazone, now sulfentrazone, and sorrel as well. And for lentils, is always a bit difficult because lentils are very sensitive to a lot of herbicides. So right now we have carfentrazone. We'd sure like to boost up that portfolio in the next few years as well. So from a cereals, we have the best portfolio there because cereals are tolerant to a lot of different products and actives. We have carfentrazone, dicamba, Eslof, which I'll share in a couple of minutes, flurazolam, similar to Prepass Flex, Karuna, tribenuron, same as Express, Visby, and Yeasted. So we've got pretty much a product for every acre and every need and every weed that you might have on the farm.
We've got a question, Greg.
Sure.
Brian, when you were looking, you did the lentil thing there, and I see you had bromoxynol and carfentrazone for your, I don't know which one it was. You guys haven't moved that into the lentil pre-seed?
No, we haven't. Now, having said that, would it cause harm? Probably not. We've just not segmented out. We've really tried wherever possible to kind of identify one or two crops only. But the rule of thumb is if you would use Conquer ahead of lentils, then you could use Vardo as well because it's the same actives.
Okay.
There is one key difference, and that is the rate of carfentrazone we have in Vardo is significantly higher. I'll get into, when we talk about the Vardo, I'll talk about the reason for that.
Okay.
But thanks for asking. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time about glyphosate. Now I've got a snap on there that's pretty small. It's pretty hard to see. But that's a snapshot from the PMRA registration website that I took yesterday. So this would be the number of glyphosate registrations in roughly the last 2 or 3 years. There's 27 to 28 products on this list. So this would be the registrations in the most recent. If you look back in glyphosate history, there would be about 7 pages of this. So there's more glyphosate registrations in Canada than any other single active. Why did I put this up? This is to show you just what has happened to the marketplace in glyphosate. Glufosinate is not far behind. Of course, you'd have a lot of registrations for 2,4-D. So in the last number of years, glyphosate has really become almost a true commodity. I look at some of the names on here, Three Brothers Crop Science. I don't know, does anybody know who they are?
Not a clue.
You've got Northern Crop Science, Vincier. I didn't actually know any of these names until I looked at it. You've also got some of the bigger names like Viking is there, Alba, Sharda, some of the generic manufacturers. But in a lot of ways, glyphosate has followed kind of the track for how products become commodities. And that is anybody can apply for a registration. It costs money to register. It takes time. But with this many products, it's very hard to distinguish what is better, what is worse. A lot of companies make claims about glyphosate, but in reality, there's probably not a lot of differential left in the marketplace.
Before you move on, I'd like to spend a little time on this, Brian, because the simplest analogy that I've come up with is that when you do pull up to the pumps and you've got the ethanol 85 stuff, you've got the regular, the mid-grade, and the premium fuel. It's very complex for a farmer to distinguish what the best choice is and
Yes.
what outcome expectation there should be based on those results. For example, we'll call it WeatherMax as being the standard of which most people would compare against, or the Roundup branded stuff. And they have got their secret sauce to bring it to market and feel they can command the price that they're bringing into the marketplace with that. And then you've got other tiers of glyphosate available, ranging from those that have a tallow-based surfactant, others that have an APG, and others yet that have an X8. Like there's different levels. And when somebody on their phone gets a text, glyphosate $4.49 a liter from somebody yesterday, and there's terms and conditions to that, how is the farmer to decide what he's getting, but to decide as well if it's the best agronomic decision for him, or what he may have to add to the stuff or whatever to be at a comparative to the gold standard?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you my experience, what I know about the marketplace. And in terms of answering which is the absolute best choice, that's really going to be individual by individual. But I'm going to start by your analogy about fuel, because that is a really good analogy, Dean. If I pull up to the pumps at Shell in Okotoks or Calgary tomorrow, I'm going to have 3 screens or 3 options. One is premium, 93 octane. One is regular or mid-grade, 91 octane. And then there's regular, 87 octane. And as you move up the chain, you're going to pay a little bit more. For the premium, if you've got a turbocharged, high performance 2-liter engine, probably from Germany or Japan, they're going to recommend premium because those engines work under a lot of pressure. They're worried about knocking, so they're going to recommend that to reduce knock. For most other engines, your regular is going to do the job fine. If you want a little bit of uptake on your horsepower or maybe a little bit better performance, you might choose the mid-grade 91. If you've got a regular V8, V6, the regular fuel is probably going to do you fine. You'll save a couple of pennies. Now, in terms of the glyphosate market, you can probably do the same thing there. I would say there's 3 tiers. But before I do that, you have to go back 20, 30 years when Monsanto was the only game in town. If you mentioned adding a surfactant, they would tell you, don't waste your money, just use more glyphosate. Where we are today is different. The market has segmented. We've got all these options here, but from a general perspective, Weather Max would be the 93 octane or the premium. Does it mean that you're always going to get better performance? Maybe, but what it does come with is the warranty. And that's really the driving differential from what I've seen, keeping in mind that I did work for Monsanto for a while doing complaints, any customer service inquiries in Alberta. The warranty is 30-minute rain fastness. If it doesn't meet the expectation, doesn't meet the labor requirements, the Bayer rep will now contact the farmer and say, tell me what you've got. And if you didn't get expectation met, we will offer you something. What I've seen is that'll typically be tied to the acreage size. Are you growing DeKalb canola? It's about keeping the business, and the warranty is the way to do that. I have no complaints or no concerns about the performance. Weather Max is good, but it comes at a premium. Is every farmer going to need that? Do they need the guarantee? That's really an individual decision. The next tier is going to be the tallow-based. The tallow surfactants. And this is a quote from Monsanto from 2018. Their claim at the time was the tallow formulations are better performance than the APEs. Now, at the time, they didn't talk about the other formulation that you mentioned, but the ethyl oxalated tallow became kind of the mid-grade, and the other ones, from what I understand, have become the lower grade. Now, the challenge as a retail is, how do I recommend which product? There's a dozen options out there. How do you decide? From my perspective, it really comes down to what does the customer need? And then match that with a formulation. If they're worried about rain fastness, if they're pushing the envelope in the spring, in the summer, where they need every minute to count, they may want to choose Weather Max. Given that glyphosate's been around for 60 years, most farmers know how to manage their operation. They know how to manage their spraying time. A tallow formulation will give them good to excellent performance, but it doesn't come with a rain-fast warranty. For a grower that is focused only on cost and nothing else, and they know the product, they're going to spray in great conditions, maybe the lower end will work for them. So it's really an individual thing. My preference would be, if I was a farmer, I've used glyphosate for 60 years. I'm not going to spray when there's dark clouds on the west. I may choose the premium one, the tallow, because I know the performance. I've used it in the past. What I've seen is that seems to be just a little bit more tolerant under stress conditions. Or I can just go with the cheap one, but the cheap one typically has conditions attached to it. I don't know about the text you got yesterday. I don't know who that was from, but there will be people trying to sell low-end glyphosate as well.
Further
So I know that's not a perfect answer, because in a market like this, there probably isn't a perfect answer. It's an
excellent take, of which a lot of people are not aware of of the differentiation. So I appreciate that. Greg, you had a question?
Yeah, so I mean, just as a farmer Joe walking into the retailer, depending on the time of the year, they would, you would go, I'm looking for some glyphosate, and they go, oh, we got a great deal on X or whatever, right? And you go out and use it, work or don't work. What the one that gets me right now is because we're kind of at the basement of the low price. So how many companies, and like you see all these new companies with the registrations coming on, how many companies are going to look to cut the odd corner to save on price, because there's really nothing to be made in glyphosate with the amount of or not so much manufacturers, but with the amount of different companies, like the competitiveness is crazy. So I mean, at $10, I don't think anybody's really going to cut a whole pile of corners, because there's probably some money to be made in it. But at $4.50 and $5, what's this? How many companies are going to mess with the formulation, or not even so much the formulation, but just cutting corners on how they're doing it to save their costs a bit?
That's a tough one. If you go back to the list, and I'm not going to flip back because you could spend a lot of time looking at that. Every company that's a manufacturer is going to look at ways to maintain a formulation. And really, the only guarantee is that it's got 540 grams per liter. After that, a company is free to pretty much do whatever they want as long as they meet that standard. So most manufacturers are going to look at different surfactants, different formulations, different inerts that you don't see on a label, and they're going to make comparisons and then decide which one they want to choose.
I have a comment on that, Greg, and this is my comment for clarity, but there are a number of companies, most tech all comes from China and stuff, right? But there are a number of companies that are specialists in only making glyphosate. And that's what they do. And they have control of that chain from start to finish, and it turning into a tote or whatever you end up with on your farm. There are others that they might be the world's largest one on the technical, but they farm out the rest of it to 8 or 10 other outfits that may or may not have liberties of the dye colors. So if you get 2 totes beside each other, it's from the same outfit. This dye is lighter than this one. It's not I'm not saying the quality control is compromised, but it is not identical. Along with that, they don't need to change their branding on their products because the 540 grams is what they have to comply with, but they can absolutely change from an APG to the cheaper X8 type products at Liberty, and it'll be to save them $1, and it'll be to save the ultimate supplier whose sticker they put on the outside of the thing. So should you experience unique things coming out, like a mass message saying we've got issues with a lot, sometimes things go sideways at lots and things like that. But when there is a general overarching feeling that something's changed in the quality of this and that, sometimes it can be the year and it's too dry and all this other stuff, but there could absolutely have been a change in the formulation of that component that maybe saves some money, but it does not necessarily stand up to the same level of scrutiny as it did before. So I'll let you speculate about what all I'm talking about with that, but just for clarity, what I would like to finish that off with, Brian, is, what is the Viking 540 glyphosate composition for what you guys are using?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. To your point, though, our purchaser actually goes to China on a yearly basis and goes plant to plant, looking at the operation, at the plant, how old is it, how clean is it, meets with the management before a decision is made on which company we're going to go with. She's not happy about going. It's 6 weeks every year.
Yeah.
But that is part of her job, to go overseas and to meet with suppliers and then determine which one to go with. Because something that a lot of us don't know, the whole chemical business has really oriented towards China and now India in the last 20 years. I have family who farm in Holland. I was there in 2019. They live in the south. So if anybody knows where Antwerp, Belgium is, in the Scheldt River, we took a cruise down there, and there are literally dozens of plants that used to produce chemicals of all types for BASF and Bayer that are shut down. The production has moved to China. It's also moving now to India. So that's why we have our buyer go over every year and meet with the folks, meet with the manufacturers, meet with the suppliers to determine which one we believe is going to do a good job and which one we can trust. So the Viking formulation of glyphosate is the tallow-based formulation. I would call that the mid to high section. We don't have a rain-fast guarantee of 30 minutes. Ours is 1 hour. And we're sticking to that. A question did come up yesterday. I thought there was some news or some noise in the channel that tallow-based formulations have been discontinued. Not for Viking.
Excellent. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
But I just want to circle back one more thing. How do you decide? We're swimming in glyphosate. You've got a zillion choices. Some of those names I've never even heard of. They'll probably show up in the marketplace either here or in Eastern Canada at some point in time. Ask questions. What is their formulation? And then think about your customer base. Glyphosate is now a commodity. How can you best serve their needs by getting a quality glyphosate? But then how do we round out our offer? What are the other things that we can put in our offer to meet the customer need, help them solve problems like kochia? How do we come up with a bundle or a portfolio type of approach that offers not just glyphosate, but everything else they need? And I think you guys are there now.
Thank you for that. And as a last point that you made in my mind is that what you're going to run up against is the people you're buying this stuff from. They may very well not know what is in the totes that they're supplying. That is sometimes not undisclosed on purpose, but it is not shared just because the stuff's selling and nobody's asking. So please, for your sake, just get very comfortable with that, because it differentiates us. And this is what iFarm's mandate is all about. It's what's best for the farmer, but with full disclosure and laying it out, and it is what it is. And then the farmer can make an informed choice versus not misguided, but an uninformed one. And that's very important to me with my business and with you guys. Thank you, Brian, for that.
And I'll add to that, ask questions. Ask us.
So if I may there, so back to the retail thing. So most of the time you go into the retail and most of those guys have no clue other than they sell Transorb. They might have an RT540 And they've brought in X because of price point as an option, and they really don't know what's in it other than it's labeled glyphosate.
So my response to that would be just what we talked about earlier: the premium, the high end, the 93 octane, the premium high, the 91 octane, and then the regular, the 87 octane, and ask the manufacturer what they've got.
One thing that just came, sorry, Brian, finish your thought, and then I've got a question.
No, and with the flood of glyphosate and glufosinate and everything else that's coming, honestly, the 90% of the actives we have today are either off patent or they're going to be off patent in the next 3 years. So this is something that is going to be pretty common.
Just to touch on it, as it was brought up on one of your slides, with the 1 hour guarantee, let's run through the scenario where the farmer has put it on. It's in excess of an hour. There's some event of some sort happened, rain event or something, and he has some legitimate concerns on, I'm not sure how this is working. What happens? What is your protocol?
Sure. Good question. That's on a lot of farmers' minds. First of all, I'll back up to what I said earlier. Glyphosate had been around for 60 years. When I was doing complaints for Monsanto a few years ago, over the course of the year, I had a whopping 3 complaints across Alberta. So growers understand glyphosate, probably better than we think they do. They understand that if they're spraying really marginal conditions, that the performance may not be as good as if they're spraying in crop, like Roundup Ready canola, for example. They get it. Farmers, based on what I've heard over the years, having been a member of the 2000 Club, that's how many complaints I've done over my lifetime. Most growers, if they see something, they're going to call, and what they want more than anything else is to help understand what happened. And on most of the calls I did, whether that be with Monsanto or Dow AgroSciences, that was 95% of the questions. What happened? What's going on here? And then what should I do differently? Because I don't want to call you guys. I don't like complaining, but I need to know what to change so this doesn't happen again. If that happens, Riley is your contact. We treat these importantly. We treat them as a one-off. Every customer is different, but anytime we get a complaint, we want to know about it. Contact Riley, and Riley will discuss what we need to do. And there's two parts to performance. One is the quality of the product. If you get a tote or a jug of something and you'll notice that there's big flakes in there, there's solids on the bottom that even when you shake it and put it in the sun for a day, it doesn't dissolve, stop, do not use it, call Riley, we will replace the product, no questions. Sometimes even a picture is all it needs. We don't need Riley to jump in or you guys to hop in the truck and drive. Send us a picture so we can determine what the issue is. If it's a non-performance in the field, I think they're going to be unlikely because of our portfolio. Again, get in touch with Riley. Riley will look after it. And if it's an agronomic thing, I'll be involved as well. Riley is your best contact for anything related to quality or product performance. Excellent.
You know what, guys? Is there any questions on the glyphosate? While we're on it, I would like just to make sure everybody's, if they've got questions, please bring them forward. One question would be, Brian, I guess we can deal with it with your tank mixability, and should the surfactants, when does that come into play? We've got zones up in Craig's area or west of there. There's lots of guys. LI 700 is what you throw in with every load and all this stuff, right? So there's different habits in different zones and things like that. So we can, but that is another presentation almost with that. And what I was going to say, for those of you that are on the phone or on the call, we've burnt up almost 90, or not 90, but 50 minutes. So we've got about 10 minutes left of what was budgeted. What I would like to know first of all, is Brian, are you still available with everything, or should we look at tempering this for another opportunity to share? And
I can go as long as you want today, depending on how long Google's allowed you or how much time everyone has this morning.
Okay, and then that was my first question, was about you. And then the second question is, for those of you that are on the call, at red light, green light, are you guys good with keeping on rolling? Just let me know right now. Assuming we're good, Craig?
I'm good.
You're good? Henri? Russ?
I have to go about just in 5 minutes time. I've got another meeting here.
Okay.
So if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm in about the same
And
boat.
Russ?
Yeah, I'm in about the same boat. I got maybe 10 or 15 minutes here, and then I gotta jump ship.
Okay, because my take is we're at about half and half with what's on the call right now, but if it's okay, I'd like to just wrap this up because it's been a lot. And what I'd like to do, Brian, is you let me know the next Friday you're available. And what will happen with that is we will do another meet, and because there's been good questions and stuff. And this will also allow for us to reveal the program that Riley and you guys are coming up with for the Nov-ish launch and stuff. Does that work for you guys?
I'm good with whatever.
Likewise,
Okay.
I'm good too.
Okay. That sounds good, because I know we've taken in a lot of information on this part, and then if we start adding all of the other stuff, sometimes I don't want things to get lost in the mix of all of the good info. So what we'll do is we'll shut off the thing for today, and we'll go into the other stuff on our next presentation. Hey, Henri.
Just a quick question, Riley. Are you available to phone during the day, during the week? I won't bother you on the weekend, but
Yeah, feel free to give me a call.
okay. You know me, I like to call and ask questions, so
Yep, no problem.
okay.
Excellent.
Thanks.
And then if there are some specific questions relating to the burn-off products ahead of time, I'll be happy to deal with you guys with that, bringing in Riley or Brian on a one-off basis and that. But I think this has been a very, very productive call, and I think it's a good baseline for us to start from. Brian, you're really knowledgeable, and you're a straight shooter, and you've got the science behind it versus the selling behind it, and I really love that. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, excellent. Good. All right. Well, hope I'll let everyone go. Hope you have a good day. And Riley, if it's all right, I'll give you a call shortly. And thanks very much for your time, Brian. And hope everybody has a really nice weekend. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, trying to hit there. I was just going to say thanks, Brian and Riley, for this today too. See you guys all. Everybody have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks. It was very good. Thanks, Riley. Thanks.